There's the pass to Leitner. Puts it up. Yes!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Camera Chronicles. I am your host, Max Rego, joined today by our fearless co-host, Mr. Alex Jackson. How we doing?
I'm glad to be back for one last episode for our 10 years end.
Yeah, so we're recording this on Wednesday, April 19th. It's been a few weeks since the college basketball season ended. Been even longer since the Duke season ended. We wanted to kind of come back here and record a podcast before the academic year is up at Duke. And kind of just regroup and talk about the season as a whole and look ahead to the future for Duke, obviously. So let's get right into it. Obviously, we haven't recorded one since pre-ACC tournament.
No,
right?
We've been slacking.
Yeah, we've been a while. Apologies to all of our devoted listeners. We love you. We hear you. So obviously Duke runs through the ACC tournament, beats Pittsburgh, Miami, Virginia to win the ACC tournament for the first time in 4 years. Get to 5 seed down in Orlando, beats Oral Roberts comfortably in the first round, and then gets out-muscled, out-physicaled, out-experienced basically against Tennessee, the 4 seed in the second round, and their first season under Jon Scheyer comes to an end. So Alex, I'm going to ask you this question. Yes. Macro, season as a whole, success or failure?
I think it was a huge success. I know people would have liked to see the team go further in March, but if you think about kind of where the team was at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of concern around Scheyer. Just like what exactly his first year would look like, then to go on and win the ACC tournament was awesome, and then get a really dominant March Madness win. And then also, if you think about where the season was just like halfway through the year, they were struggling. I mean, Lively wasn't what everyone thought he was, and was battling injury, and guys like Whitehead were battling injury, and it was he was coming off the bench when people thought he would be dominant. The team was not looking like what a team that could win the ACC tournament, and so I think over the course of the whole year, it was a lot of ups and downs, but I think ultimately, if you look at macro, it was a huge success, especially to win the ACC tournament in a head coach's first year.
Yeah, I mean, they got better significantly over the last month of the season. I think you got to say it's a success. Obviously, at Duke, the standard is not getting to the second round, but again, given the context, it was Scheyer's first year. A totally new roster. Only Roach really was the only contributor, along with a little bit of Jalen Blake's, the only contributor coming back from the year before, where they made a Final Four run. I think, obviously the tournament run was a little abrupt, given Duke was really at the time on such a hot streak and such a trendy Final Four pick. Even I know Jay Billis, I think, had Duke in his national title game.
Just in terms of like lower seeds, they were highly.
They were. Ranked. There's always, I think, every year, I think a lot of people fall prey to finding a conference tournament champion who's like a 4 or 5 seed and picking that team across the board to make a Final Four run. I know last year it was Iowa. I remember with Keegan Murray, they won the Big Ten tournament, and everyone's like, they lost the first round. I remember. So they were also a 5 seed. Like that kind of was in the back of my head, I don't know if I can pick. I didn't pick Duke to go to the Final Four. I picked them to lose in the Elite Eight, but I know there were people out there who had Duke winning the national title, and Duke was a really good team.
They were playing their best basketball for sure. The defense was dominant. I think I don't want to dwell on the tournament too much, just considering that we're a bit removed from it now.
It's been a while.
Just like in the Tennessee game, they came out a little flat, and a large part of that was missing Mark Mitchell last minute. Seemed like everyone was kind of befuddled when they found out that Mitchell wasn't going to be playing. And so I think that threw a huge wrench in what Duke was able to do. And it kind of just sucks. It was like a sucky turn of events. And there's nothing you can do about that. And they didn't play their best basketball. But, I think the team had a lot of potential. So it was just disappointing, but not to say that the whole year was disappointing.
Yeah, I would say injury luck is part of how you win a championship. UConn, they had a great season. Congrats to them. But they got some good injury fortune where they didn't really have any of their core guys injured at the end of the year. Kansas literally was missing their coach for the defending national champion for the first 2 games, and they ended up losing in the second round by a possession. Who's to say that doesn't end up differently, and maybe they go on a run? You could say that for a lot of teams. Texas losing key guys, not making the Final Four. It's just Houston, dealing with injuries. It's just there's an injury component to it. So I think overall, undefeated at home, won the ACC tournament. Key guys grew throughout the season. We can talk about the guys coming back, but like you said, Lively, Whitehead, I think they got better. They filled into their roles. Proctor, Roach, even. I think it was overall a positive, a net positive season for sure in
I'll be
year
interested
one.
to see how long that home win streak could go into next year. I know that they've got some tough
home games.
tough home games.
Arizona.
It's going to be huge, but it'll be really cool if Duke's able to continue that for an extended period of time, considering that they just haven't, under Scheyer, they have not lost a home game yet.
Yeah, definitely. So let's look ahead a little bit. I think it's a good idea kind of to see take stock of what Duke has coming in. I have the guys coming back as of right now in front of me. Kyle Filipowski, Tyrese Proctor, Mark Mitchell have announced they will come back for their sophomore seasons. Derek Lively II and Tariq Whitehead said they will enter the NBA draft and will be hiring agents. I think those 2 came as a little surprise. They came in as one and dones at the beginning.
It's a little surprise. I wish that Lively would come back for one more year and have a full off season to
for his sake,
kind of make the step that Mark Williams made between his first and second year and become a huge threat offensively. I think obviously from a Duke perspective that would be just awesome, but I totally understand his decision. Same as Tariq's. It's kind of a no-brainer for those 2.
Yeah, I agree. I think being a potential lottery pick, first rounder even, that's life changing money. So there's not really much of a thought with that. Then again, Kyle Filipowski was a projected first round pick on a lot of boards, and he decided to come back.
I think the double hip surgery is playing a bit more of a factor than him or any other kind of news outlet is letting on into his decision.
I think so.
I'm a little concerned about that because they kind of held it under the radar that he's having this double hip surgery. I don't know any of the more details that are involved outside of that, but I know how important the off season is for getting that jump, and I know Filipowski was kind of great all around last year, offense, defense, but he can definitely improve his shooting efficiencies and kind of rim protection skills, and so I think he's going to be missing a large chunk of the offseason now, and that concerns me a little bit. Just I maybe temper expectations about kind of the jump that he's able to make because of that.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I think it might just affect how much he's able to go in the off season.
Right.
Pick up games, workouts. It's a big part of your growth. So I don't know the timetable was for the rehab, but I think that's something definitely to monitor. Also, Christian Reeves having off-season surgery as well.
Was his ankle?
Ankle, yeah. Just to go through the guys, Ryan Young said after the Tennessee loss he will be coming back for his COVID eligibility year.
I thought Ryan Young was a great in the role that he played this year. He was great.
Agreed.
I know we're gonna get to this in a little bit.
Here's the caveat.
I hope that Duke picks up another center, like a true center, in the transfer portal, and then I don't know what Ryan Young's role is on this team.
As the backup center.
Well, with Flip playing, and it's assumed that Flip's playing the 4 always, and I can see next year some definite lineups where they move him to the 5.
Well, I mean, there were lineups where they moved Paolo to the 5, but they still were able to have a role for Theo John. So.
Yes, but Theo John's minutes went down to nothing towards the end of the year.
That's also fair. So, I think Young is. There will be situations where he gets some more run than others. I think with teams that are gonna get you in a lot of pick and rolls and get your big guys to switch, probably not the best situation for him. But I think if you're trying to pound it inside, he's obviously got the post move. So I think he's super valuable. So
yeah, and definitely in terms of like teaching younger guys.
Yeah, he's definitely like super good, like locker room guy.
Yeah, great locker room guy.
Chemistry, all that. We haven't really heard much on this front besides his surgery, besides Reeves' surgery, but Jalen Blake's Jaden Shute, Christian Reeves.
Yeah.
Seems like our three will be coming back, but
do you know when the transfer window kind of closes for them?
I believe that's in June.
Okay, so they got a while, I guess.
But I can do some research on that.
I would love to see Shute develop some more. I've heard rumors about Reeves transferring. This surgery might be limiting for him, though. Blake's is another guy that I could foresee transferring, just given if Roach comes out of the drafts pool, and Duke's bringing in a guard-heavy freshman class, then I could see Blake's wanting to transfer. But he's another one of those guys, kind of like Young, where his kind of defensive skills and work ethic is really valuable in the locker room to teach the younger guys, what kind of Duke basketball is all about.
Yeah.
So again, those are guys I would like to have on the roster, but I understand, given the state of the team next year, if they feel like transferring is the best move for their careers.
Looking now, May 11th is the end of the 60-day window. So it opened.
Okay, so that's soon.
I guess about a month ago, but
less than a month.
Yeah. So obviously, like we haven't heard anything on those three guys, but it's obviously still worthy of monitoring that. I think all three have roles potentially development. In terms of still developing within the program, but also Blake's is obviously super scrappy, defensive past. Shute, I always think having a quote unquote a knockdown shooter, no pun intended, off the bench is always important. And then Reeves, I think he showed some good stuff in the limited minutes that he had this year. I know it's usually at the end of games in garbage time, but
I think with some good development this year, I know obviously the surgery is going to slow him, just to talk about, but he could definitely work his way into something. I think maybe that's what Scheyer's trying to figure out right now. Is if he can count on Reeves to be that like true rim protector that Duke needs for next year.
Yeah, it's always good having that guy off the bench.
Yeah, or if they kind of just need to hit the transfer portal for that.
Yeah. So I think, obviously, again, haven't heard anything on those guys. Nothing to report if you're listening, but there's definitely, obviously, be aware the deadline to enter the transfer portal is still not until May 11th. So Roach entered the draft but did not hire an agent. Will be maintain his college eligibility. Feels up in the air whether he'll still return or not. Any thoughts on that?
I've been kind of back and forth on it.
I have too.
When he first declared, I thought he did that for a reason, and part of that was the confidence he has in himself, and part of that was because looking at the team next year, like Scheyer. I know Scheyer would love to get some of the freshmen some playing time or some startability time, and not just coming off the bench in those guard spots, especially with Proctor coming back. But I think now I'm kind of leaning more towards Roach coming back.
I think it's pretty possible as well.
Yeah, I've never thought that he was gonna be like an NBA guy. I know that might be a bit of a controversial take.
It's tough at his size
his size is a huge factor for me.
His size, he's a good athlete. He's not a great athlete.
Right. He's a good shooter.
He's a good shooter, not a great shooter. He's a good passer, not a great passer.
So
I think it's tough.
I think he's a great college player.
I agree.
Taking his game to the next level is tough, and so I think at some of these scrimmages coming up for the draft, some of the combine stuff, he'll get feelers around. But I've been wrong in this 20 times. So
it's tough to make.
It's really tough to tell what's going through these guys' heads. So I think. My guess is that Roach comes back, but you can never say at this point in time.
I think it feels 50-50.
Yeah.
The two things, two kind of considerations. I think he still maybe could, be better served by staying another year at Duke, just for himself, being a 4-year, 2-time Duke captain. He would obviously be a captain if he came back. That's a big deal. That's a big resume point. He would be the first 4-year big time recruit really since Grayson Allen. So I guess Joey Baker was at Duke for 4 years, but he wasn't the type of player that Grayson or Jeremy has been.
He had the potential, but just never.
Yeah, it never really kind of worked out.
Yeah.
His role kind of shifted, but I think but also I think some guys just want to get their professional career started already.
Right.
A lot of his, I know one thing that I think Brendan Marks over at The Athletic noted is that some guys with all of his friends from his high school class are basically already professional players, of the top end of that class. So he might just want to get his professional career started. So I think, to me, it feels up in the air. If I had to predict right now, I think he comes back. So, but whether or not he comes back, one guy that Duke will not have next year in any capacity is Mackenzie Mbako. When Kyle Filipowski announced that he was coming back for a second year, the timing of that was very lined up with Mbako announcing that he was decommitting from Duke, opening his recruitment. He has not committed anywhere as of right now. A lot of rumors flying, but just on the Duke side of things with him, is it worth trading a sophomore Filipowski for a freshman Mbako?
Absolutely.
I agree.
I mean, before we knew that Filipowski was having surgery, that was a no-brainer for me. With the surgery, it's not as clear-cut, but I still think by far I would rather have second-year Filipowski over Mbako. That's not to say I was pretty sad when Mbako decommitted. I'm not going to be here next year as a senior. I'm a senior now, but I was pretty excited to watch him play.
Yeah,
I just been reading a lot about him and watching some highlights and stuff he was doing in the McDonald's All-American game. I love his game, and I was really excited for kind of the role that he would play at Duke. But when I read a lot on Twitter about the constant struggle between guys who want to just walk into that star role versus competing for it.
Yeah,
it's hard to if you're trying to be a lottery pick next year. It is first round pick, lottery pick next year. It's a challenge.
Agreed.
To just accept having to battle for that, especially with a guy like Kyle Filipowski.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's just, I don't think Mbaka wanted a starting job handed to him.
Yeah.
I just think he's probably a 1-year rental no matter where he goes. He's going to be probably a one and done off to the NBA. He's a really talented top 10 recruit, really good scorer for a really versatile player. But, he wants to be able to maximize that 1 year in college, and maybe coming off the bench or having more of a utility role at Duke doesn't let him, showcase his skill set maybe for NBA scouts in his 1 year in college that he's probably going to get either way, no matter where he decides to go to college. I think, it probably serves him better than to go somewhere else. And
if he wants to be the go-to option on offense,
it's not going to be a Duke.
With the current shape of Duke's
yeah.
It's tough to give that to
Yeah.
him. And, all we can do now is hope that he doesn't go to UMC. But
I don't think I doubt that'll happen, but there are rumors flying. Who knows? I know, we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. But, the guys that are going to be in town, the guys that I just mentioned, perhaps maybe Roach, perhaps the transfer big. There has been, Caden Shedrick, Virginia transfer, is visiting Duke at the end of April. But the guys coming in, Caleb Foster, Jared McCain.
Well, we haven't talked about two important guys yet coming back.
TJ Power, Sean Stewart. Who's the two guys?
Proctor and Mitchell.
We just talked about them. Talked about how they're coming back.
Not really.
Well, yeah. Well, I think Proctor will have the keys as a starting point guard. Mitchell, we can talk right now about the roster as a whole.
Yeah, but I thought those are two key guys that we should at least give a little discussion to.
Okay, well, what do you got?
I just wanted to say that Proctor was the guy I'm most excited for returning this year.
Over Filipowski?
Over Filipowski.
Really?
I thought that the way Proctor had turned his game up at the end of the season made me think that he was almost going to go to the draft. He's so young, so much potential, and having a really strong ball handler like he is, his shooting percentages skyrocketed in the later half of the season, and just so him getting to start a new once again and come in and kind of take over as that now more veteran presence, I think is really exciting for me. It's going to be so much fun to watch next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think he looks so comfortable, late in the season, running the offense, getting guys, giving guys good looks, finding guys on the roll. He looked super comfy, super confident. He's going to be really, really good next year, I think. Go ahead.
And then just as far as Mitchell goes, we don't have to talk about him too much, but I just think that he's invaluable to the team. He started every game for this year.
Great defender.
Except for that one
against Tennessee,
they lost. I think he just, he the whole year is still maybe figuring out exactly what his role was offensively. But he's kind of one of the Swiss Army knife guys.
Totally.
He play inside, outside, and I think just another year is going to do great things for his draft capabilities.
Yeah, and Mitchell, Proctor, and Flip all turned into very good defenders.
A really good three guys to be.
Yeah, totally. So with the guys coming in, obviously the four guys I said, I think there's a lot of different lineups you could do. Sean Stewart, you could put him at the 4, Flip at the 5, you could put Flip at the 5. Excuse me, like we just said a little bit ago. Can Power and Flip kind of coexist? Can they do a 3-guard attack?
Yeah.
Can they do Flip at the 4, Young at the 5? They've obviously done that this past year, so it feels like they could do that again. So, Alex, just what are your thoughts on the different lineups that Scheyer could throw out there next year?
No, I think it's awesome. I'll be interested to see. I know McCain is a really fun talent. So I think it'll be great. If assuming Roach doesn't come back, it'll be great to see him and Proctor kind of manning that backcourt.
And Foster.
I assume Proctor's going to start, but
well,
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it could be
sorry, I assume McCain's going to start.
Well, yeah, Proctor and McCain if Roach doesn't come back, but it feels like there could be a lot of 3-guard lineups depending on the situation.
Foster will be playing a ton of minutes.
Yeah,
for sure. I'll be interested to see what TJ Power's role is, if at all, or if he takes kind of a gin shoot role this year a little bit more. I think he'll have more of a role than that. That's what I'm trying to figure out. There's a lot of talent coming in, especially if they pick up a transfer.
Bigger. He's bigger than Shoot. He's
right.
I think he complements the rest of the pieces a little better because he's a better playmaker and he's just a bigger, stronger athlete. So I think he gives them just more versatility with how they could play inside out. I think one of the things that Scheyer I think really evolved with was his lineup combinations throughout the year, really figuring out which guys can coexist. And I think he showed a willingness at times to go with a little more unconventional setup. I know a lot of it was either Ryan Young or Derek Lively in the game just because of how they wanted to anchor their defense. But I think there's the potential for some 3-guard lineups, Foster, Proctor, McCain. If Roach comes back, Roach, Proctor, McCain, Roach, Foster, Proctor. I think there is the possibility for them to go a little more up-tempo and really, make it happen offensively. Because there were times where, the pace this year was a little slow, especially in comparison to some past Duke teams. But I think, it feels weird because Duke is on a lot of, preseason rankings. I know it's April. I always think that's pretty. I always think that's a little dumb to have a preseason ranking in freaking April when the season's in November. But still don't know who's gonna be. Where portal guys are gonna go. Assistant coaches moving around. There's guys making decisions on the draft like Roach. But Duke is number 1 in a lot of places.
I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it creates unnecessary expectations.
It's just another way for people to get chatter and get clicks and stuff.
If I'm Scheyer, I'm making sure that I don't
ignore
see
it.
Especially
Jesus.
the freshmen coming in, I don't want them to be looking at that stuff at all. But obviously it's great that Duke's getting some recognition from the end of last year of just how well those guys that are coming back can play. So.
Totally. I think expectations will be deservedly high. I think Duke will be the favorite to win the ACC. Yeah. I think they're going to be one of the better teams in the country, as in terms of expectations going into the year. And I think there's going to be some pressure. And I think there's definitely more pressure this year than there was last year, because I think, it's always tough to replace Coach K, but I think year one, it's like there was not – if Scheyer had, gone into the Sweet 16, that would have been, a really, really impressive year. There was – there's always pressure. It's Duke, but I think year one, you're given a little bit more leeway than year two when you get some guys back and you get another great recruiting class, and the foundation is really set when you're – really taking the reins as the coach. So
I'm looking at for next year the Champions Classic. Duke,
Michigan State.
He's off against Michigan.
Michigan State's gonna be good
and
next year too.
Michigan State is returning a really
Michigan State is loaded,
and a good recruiting class. And
exciting.
I mean, honestly, they could be like a 1-2 matchup, like right
yeah,
from the beginning
totally.
of the year.
That would be awesome. And Arizona coming to town. Finally, Duke getting like a really good non-conference game. I know Ohio State last year.
They have a home and home set up for that, right?
Yeah. So. Might have to come back. Might have to come back to Durham for that game if I can get a ticket.
Schedule's going to be really interesting next year. I'm excited. I think the ACC is going to be really strong. I know the ACC is picking up a lot of good transfers, just across board removals, retooling the roster completely.
Louisville's back.
They've been named in a ton of transfer cases.
Yeah. Well, they got to kind of rebuild everything there. But UNC, same thing.
UNC is doing the same thing.
Virginia's getting some guys. Miami is definitely going to retool.
Miami's returning a bunch of strong guys.
Well, Isaiah Wong just said he's going to the draft, but they're definitely going to retool with the transfer.
Is Isaiah Wong
he's going to
returning?
No, he said he's gone to the draft, but they're definitely going to retool with a transfer. That's just how they roll. So
yes, I think ACC is going to be
it's going to be fun.
I know everyone claimed it was another down year last year.
Had a Final Four team, so
I think they're going to be a powerhouse.
Agreed, totally.
Just in terms of conference strength.
Totally, yeah. So that's kind of all we got. Been a fun season on the podcast grind. We've been doing this for 2 seasons now. Been a fun time. I think this is episode 11 of this season. We did 20 last year, so 31. Not all of us were on. We're not all of us were on. I think every single one. But it's been a fun time. Obviously, some housekeeping items. Jonathan Leviton and Micah Horowitz. If you've definitely heard them on this podcast. They will
read some of their
coverage. Exactly. Jonathan's our sports editor for this year, and Micah's one of our sports managing editors for this year. They will be transitioning into their senior roles next year, and they will be hosting this podcast. Them too. So
two really intelligent guys around basketball. So
they're
podcasting in good hands.
They're gonna kill it. So we both of us are graduating, so we're out of here. So. Thank you all for listening, and Alex, always a pleasure, my friend.
It's been great doing this with you.
All right, yeah. Thanks everyone for listening.